Well, hello, everybody. I am Ian,
And this is Sim.
and we want to welcome you again to another episode. So, before we record this, we're just trying to figure out what title we're going to come up with, and we're down to a couple. It's balancing. It's something to do with balance. It's psychology.
Yeah.
We're going to put a poll. Actually, probably by this point, the poll will probably already be on LinkedIn, and the decision will already be made. But just to let everybody know that it took a little bit of some time to get to the title of this. So we
Yes.
hope that whatever the title is, and we don't know it yet. That's why every time we introduce the podcast, we don't know what the title is. We're hoping by the time this comes out in another, I'd say later on this year, we're going to actually have knowledge of the title. So all this to say, welcome to the podcast with with Sim and Ian. You know,
Yes.
that's Sim. How are we doing?
Good. Good. I'm so glad we're having this conversation because it's just opens the veil to like the startup process of this. Because this will be our second drop because the first drop are the first 3 episodes you've already heard, hopefully, and you're subscribed. Like 5 stars. That's what we're aiming for.
And if you take one away because you don't have a title at this point, I totally understand. So if you have four, I get it. I get it.
It's true. It's true. So this will be right before Halloween. This episode is going to drop. And Ian and I, we were talking about, do we do Halloween and how do we celebrate Halloween? For me, I have always procrastinated to find the right costume. And one of my favorite ones is like a name tag,
Hmm.
not Sim.
Right.
That's been my go-to low effort. But you had a great idea about why I have reservations is because I don't want to invest in a costume where it once my life and then be done with it. And you were telling me that with cosplay and just creating a hobby around this costume, wearing this costume might have, I guess, might increase my ROI.
Hmm.
Is
Right.
that right?
Yeah. It increases the ROI of the costume that you're wearing for sure. And so it's
Yeah.
not just limited to the one day. And kind of a rewind button here for those who don't know what we're talking about when we're saying cosplay. It's when an individual dresses up as a character from a book, a movie, a comic book, you name it, and they portray that life in a way, I guess is the best way to put it. And a lot of times that life that's being portrayed is at a convention, or it's mainly a convention, I guess is the best way to put it. There are a lot of conventions in Georgia for sure, but there are
Dragon
individual
Con. I think that just
Dragon Con's
happened.
one, there's like Comic Con, there's MomoCon. I mean, and you can
Okay.
go up and down
Yeah.
the coasts, and you can find different conventions that can plug and play the cosplays. So that's what cosplay is. And so going back to, if you wear a costume for Halloween, well, that's just one night. And then, and by the way, adults putting time and effort into one costume is a lot, and kids take a good 3 to 5 minutes. They say, I just want to dress up as such and such, and then you're like, all right, that's cool. Adults doing it, we put way more time and effort than we need to, and then
I mean,
as
it's
adults,
it's effort and work, like you
oh
mentioned,
god,
right?
absolutely it is,
Yeah.
because you're going back and forth. Is this the right one? Okay,
Yeah.
if this is, then how detailed should I go? How much time do I
Yes.
have? How much money am I going to put into it? Are
Right.
people going to appreciate what I'm looking like? Is this going to come off? Is this going to stick? Am I going to stick the
Right.
landing costume? Because
Absolutely.
you don't want to
I'm
stick.
thinking, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm thinking about like, okay, is it functional? If I have to walk from here, this parking lot to the venue, am I just going to be exhausted by the time I get there? Is it mobile? Is it right? All these other factors that go in when I'm thinking about a child dressing up. Yep, I'm done.
it's so easy. It's
It's
so
so
easy,
easy.
and they just look on TV and see which character they wanna buy the costume for,
Right.
and it really is. And I know that there are people out there who, when it comes around late July, early August, something kicks in their psyche and says, "I think Halloween is coming," and I want to be prepared this year. And I think now's the time to get my outfit ready.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah,
You're so right.
it's a
Uh,
thing. It's a thing. I
I
mean,
was
if you go to Target in August, they have Halloween things. So therefore, I guess
yes,
Target or these major box stores, they are the ones that drive it
I
early,
did
and then you're
not
like, "Oh,"
know
people
this,
are thinking,
right?
"I need to do Halloween."
And I had no idea. Like, I just came back from the States and I went into a big box store and I was like, wait, why is it Halloween decorations, candy, costumes? Why is it out right now? We are months away from
Mhm.
Halloween. Months. And then I turn on the radio going back home and it's like, we are less than 100 days away from Halloween. That's how we start the countdown that early now. Less than 100 days. If it's double digits, we're ready. That
I
was
know.
so surprising to me.
Well, I mean, there's also I'm not gonna say the organization name, but I think Sim knows when I start talking about it immediately, is there is a 6-month countdown. I've received the email saying it is now 6 months away from Halloween, and they have
Mm,
all the promotions for things that are
yes.
Halloween-based, Halloween movies that are queued up to start watching it now because it's
Mhm.
coming up at 6 months.
Yes.
So, it's crazy. It's
It's
just
crazy.
that's how we
And
are now.
again, I love celebrating eating candy. Okay.
You don't need a Halloween for that.
I love that. I mean, as adults, absolutely, but it just makes it more okay. It's like, you know what? It's
Yes.
Halloween. I can have another candy bar. It's okay. The rest of the year, my dentist said no, but I'm gonna risk it.
You know, on occasion, I do wish that they sold Halloween candy year-round. So, the
No.
mini sizes that are only offered or the
Yes.
between mini size and bite size, because there's a differentiation, I don't know how, but they always have those, but just if they do that year-round,
Hmm.
that would I wouldn't say no to that. I
Yeah.
just wouldn't.
No, the dental industry really needs to start working on that.
Oh my gosh. Oh, man.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
tell you, so speaking of costumes and Halloween
What a
and how this
what a
it's
segue. I love it. What are
beautiful.
we talking
We
about today?
we do work on this. We do work on this. You know, there is and this may tie into what we're talking about, hopefully it does, about the figurative costumes that we wear in our career. Because a lot of
Mhm.
times there are costumes that we want I mean, we're talking about how enthusiastic and how excited we are of being in these costumes because of the fact that, it's the situation is you want to present your best self and maybe you wear a costume to kind of fit in
Oh,
to that
absolutely.
situation,
Think about
you
the
know?
interview. Think
Right.
about the interview. Like, start there. We're always dress up, you know, whatever they dress, at least one level higher during the interview. If it's a casual work environment, attire environment, go business casual or higher. It's always something about putting something on so people take you seriously,
Right.
take you differently. And it starts before you're even at that job.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Right.
I think maybe I mean that could be if you take a step back and just say it could be from the resume itself.
Mhm.
It's you do have some sort of a costume on your resume, and I know it sounds weird, but if you think about it, you wanna put your best foot forward, and you wanna make it look
Right.
good, and you
Yeah.
want to be a part of that organization. So how do you do that, right? You wanna have you put on a costume. You say, "Well, I'm good, but if I put on this costume, I'm gonna be Batman, and
Right.
people like Batman, so I'm gonna make this resume my Batman costume,
Right.
and be accepted more."
No, it's really the whole courtship of career, getting into a job has base on making an impression, a lasting impression that goes from the resume to the network, the people you're talking with, to the interview, how you're dressed, how you're articulating yourself. All this comes through. But when we're talking about wearing a costume, in my head, I'm thinking, there's a facade that I give to AB people. Won't be myself completely when I'm working with higher ups. When I'm working with C suite, that's not the same person as when I'm working with college students. I have to put a different face, a different facade, so I can communicate at their level, whatever that looks like.
Do you think that the costume is the costume the same or different as an imposter syndrome?
Okay. I definitely think costume is different than imposter syndrome. The reason I say this is because costume can make you into Batman,
Right.
a superhero, fill you up with confidence and everything, but a imposter syndrome has a very negative impact in our psyche. That's why I think it's different because costume, oh my gosh. The one I'm thinking about is I just lost it. The movie Mask. You remember the movie Mask
I do.
from the
Is
90s? I know this is a
this
90s
scary
reference.
or is this the scare one? Because I know both. Which is I don't know if that's good or bad, but I know
It's
both. So is it the Cher one with Eric Stoltz in the '80s, or is it Jim Carrey in The Mask in the
Jim
'90s?
Carrey. That was my
Oh,
mask. Jim
gotcha.
Carrey was my
Okay.
mask. And in that film, if you haven't seen it, I haven't watched it in like 10, 20 years at this point. But what I recall is they took, as soon as Jim Carrey put on that mask, turned it into the mask, right?
Right.
His animations became a lot more grandiose. He was
Right.
able to have that confidence and go out and talk to people that he wasn't able to previously just because of the nature of who he was. Shy, sheltered, a little bit lower on the confidence scale. But as soon as the mask went on, it started to change.
Right.
But it didn't change him completely. It just amplified his characteristics.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
when I'm thinking about when we wear a mask, it can empower us to amplify our characteristics.
Yeah. So you're to your point. Now there might be some differences. I think you mentioned there was a
Mhm.
mask amplifies, a costume disguises, or it's a
Yes.
different person. It's a different persona. It's the persona that you have the costume of. The mask is amplifying your talents just to another level. So I think that maybe,
I don't
can you do
I don't know
both?
if I agree or disagree here, Ian, because
Okay.
let's talk about Batman because you brought it up. Batman wears a mask and a
Sure.
costume. Now, is he amplifying Bruce Wayne's philosophy and characteristics? Yeah,
That's
I'm just
right.
or is he transformed into completely different somebody? Because
Right.
I don't think any costume or a mask allows somebody to transform like an instant if those tenants weren't already within themselves,
I see. I see. Okay.
right? So
Yeah,
this is where
I get the okay. Yeah, I get that. In my geeky little head, I think of what
yeah,
other characters are there, and I am not that, we'll say, thorough in the comic book world to know all of these characters. And probably for the audience, it's best that we don't.
it's true, it's true. We are here at this podcast to talk about the psychology behind wearing a mask,
Right.
and do we
Yes.
do it? So have you done it? Have you recognized that you were wearing a mask in your career?
Oh, yes. Yes. There have been many times because I think sometimes the job had to call for it.
Mm,
So
okay.
I would think that there are certain abilities where it's not quote unquote appropriate for that job. However, if I put the costume on and if I amplify something or if
Mhm.
it veers off to another type of standpoint on my ability, I guess the best way to put it,
Yeah.
then that's called for. So, for example, if I'm it's hard to the example's gonna be a little challenging, so we'll
Yeah.
see if it sticks or not, but
Let's see.
if we're looking at teaching, can I be enthusiastic? Well, I guess it depends on the subject matter, because if it's a subject matter I'm like, this is okay. My ability of just saying this subject matter is okay, if it comes off as that, all right, we're gonna learn about. I guess we're gonna talk about math now, and we're gonna talk about the math facts here. And so the ability is like, all
I
right,
love math. For everyone listening that enjoy math too, I love math.
math is good. Math is helpful in the world. Don't get me wrong. it's the ability, right? It's my ability of my enjoyment of what I'm teaching. It's like,
Mm,
all right. So now I have to put a costume on and say, man, this is math is the best thing ever. We've got these math facts. It would help you. And it now that mask is on to amplify the skill because that's what teaching is calling for. It's calling for that enthusiasm. It's calling for that excitement. And my ability is not there for certain subject matters, not for
yeah.
teaching, just not for the subject matter. So yes, there has been moments, mainly in teaching, about that. And I'm guessing kind of like the same for yourself when it comes to what you have done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think like one of the components that we're also touching on, but we're not going to talk about here is code switching. Are you familiar with code switching? Okay. It happens with a lot of people of color where they have to speak differently in different environments because what is acceptable, what is appropriate, what is honestly inclusive is if we just spoke differently to our different dialects and uh, different styles. But oftentimes that can seem as not as professional or it has negative connotation
Mm.
behind it. So there's a lot of code switching for a lot of people in the minority group. So we're not talking about code switching here. We're talking what the example that I'm using is yes, I will talk to going back to like if I'm teaching a course, if I'm teaching a content, then I have to speak at the audience's level. So when it's high school, I can't use certain words, certain concepts because they haven't experienced it yet. And if I were to use those same concepts, same ideas to the senior level, like VPs, CEOs, then they wouldn't understand it either. So for me, contextually, and I guess my lexicon really changes depending on who I'm talking with and where I am. That is one component. My psychological side also changes to understand and build rapport for who I'm speaking with. Does that make
Yes.
sense? Right.
It's
For example, we were just talking about Batman. I have probably 1 to 5% knowledge about Batman,
in here.
right? But I can pull from my references enough to convey an idea. And that's when I think like I'm wearing a mask, I'm wearing a costume to say like, cuz in our conversation we were talking about it and then you went into you know, the comic book side. I have never read a comic book. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with comic books. It's just for me going through them is it costs a lot of energy. Does that make sense?
It
Like
does.
for
It
me,
does.
I want to speak the common language of the person I'm speaking with as much as possible.
And for the record, I don't have any comic books. I just watch the movies, and that's pretty much
Yes.
it. But it's something what you're mentioning, honestly, is showing my absolute ignorance and not recognizing that what my mask looks like obviously will be different from other individuals, but for totally different reasons.
Absolutely.
From a like I think you just mentioned, from a cultural standpoint,
Hmm.
probably from other standpoints from a race standpoint, from a gender standpoint, there has to be so many different masks that
So many
you feel
layers.
you have to put on just to believe you're going to be accepted. And there's no
Yes.
guarantee that you put on the Batman costume and everybody's gonna like Batman. People could not like Batman and you put the wrong costume on.
Hmm.
And you put all this effort and all this energy into what you think is the right costume, and it
Yeah.
just backfires.
Yeah.
Or maybe another way of looking at it is it backfires because you think you're doing what people want to see.
Right.
And the
And I think
reality
a
is,
lot of us, myself included, fall into that trap of, oh, this is who I want them to see. So let me go ahead and continue acting a certain way. And we're going to talk about self image and how people perceive us in about 2 or 3 episodes. So I'll table that topic, but we want to make an impression. Just like we were talking about the resume to the interview, right? Two, when we're actually in the job, we want to make a lasting impression because people will remember us. But one of the key components here is what happens when we are authentic, yet we still have a mask, we have a costume on. Because vulnerability is one of the greatest risks we think we're taking. Where, yep, I'm an open book. Ask me anything. I won't tell you everything. Ask me anything. That can make us feel really open. And if we get rejected in those situations, it can really hurt our psyche. It can
Right.
hurt our confidence. It can manipulate our self esteem. Right? There's so many negative impacts of that. That I am coming here authentically as myself in hope that I am accepted. But the
And
risk of
well,
voter, go ahead.
yeah. No, I was saying that the costume is it's a safety net.
It absolutely
It's
is.
the barrier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we all need it to a certain point, but we also have to find those people where we can take our costumes off and be
Right.
real, right? And this is what we were talking about a bit ago. I feel like a lot of people get stuck in their costume and that starts becoming who they
Mhm.
think they are.
Right.
And this
Yep.
is where I've seen several clients, right? I don't know who I am. I feel lost. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. These self doubt starts popping up because they have lived a life to gain external validation. And this episode is sponsored by Balanced at Last, my coaching services. That's balanced@last.com. If you are curious about how I can help you, please schedule a free consultation call, a 20-minute call to assess your challenges and ways my services can help you. Mention you are a podcast listener and receive 20% off your coaching services. Offer valid for a limited time. Visit balancedatlast.com or scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description below. Thank you for listening. And then their internal self slowly dissipates, goes away. My gosh. So, audience, we are in the height of K-pop Demon Hunter. You don't know this yet, but before we were started recording our episode, Yin and I we were just talking about if we've seen it. So what I just expressed right here in my head, that a scene popped up and a song popped up, and if you've seen it, you know exactly what I what I mean about hiding ourselves and the cost it has for us. Yeah.
I don't know the scene. So, but
I
just
know,
just
but you
just
should
just a
watch.
side note, in case people don't know what K-pop demon hunters are, I haven't seen it. Sim has. It's on Netflix. That's all I really know, and the kids like it. The end.
And adults like it. And
And
adults
adults
like
like it
it.
apparently, so it's not
Oh,
the it just it just keeps on going apparently.
yes. Yes. Ugh, so catchy, the tunes. Oh my god. It's been 10 days, if not longer, since I've seen it, and those songs are still in my head. And I'm not playing the songs. They just
Right.
pop up. They just pop up. They're so catchy.
I think we have found what you're gonna be dressing up for us Halloween. A K-pop demon hunter. We're talking about where the motivation is to and where, we're gonna get the motivation from. I think we found it. The inspiration is there. I think it's you're gonna be a K-pop demon hunter. I don't know what that looks
That's
like,
yeah,
but or
all
just a
right, all right.
sticker
You
on my
have to
shirt. I'm
watch
a
the
K-pop demon
movie.
hunter.
Your entire family will thank you, and I will thank you for watching this film. All right, like Ian, like I hate hype, so I have watched amazing movies after like 2 3 years later when the hype has died down, just because my expectation will be high, and then if it doesn't meet it, then I'm just disappointed.
Right.
So I didn't want to watch this. I didn't want to watch it, but then I just said, you know what? I have to stay awake. I'm fighting jet lag. Let's just put it on. And it was fantastic.
It was
It was
fantastic.
fantastic. Worth all the hype.
Wow.
All
Okay.
the hype.
All right. I will have to do that. I'm gonna have to just kind of white knuckle it and just see it with the family. And, the worst case scenario is that I do like I do many nights I watch movies with my kids and fall asleep through it. But this might be the one where I actually stay awake and enjoy it. So if that's
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay if I actually stay awake through it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's
If
win-win.
anyone is on YouTube watching this right now, right? Comment below. Did Ian stay through, stay awake?
Great vote. Oh my gosh, survey that.
Yeah.
Ah. Anywho, so moving on about costumes.
You know, Talking
Wow.
about costumes, right? Are we wearing a costume right now, Ian? You and I, while we're trying to record our podcast. Do you think you're wearing a costume?
I think yes, I think so. I think
Yeah.
that and it's nothing against the
No.
environment, the setting, the
Yeah.
situation. I think it's just at this point in life, a natural reaction and just, you have to kind of unlearn it at a certain point.
Yeah.
Because for so long you put on the costume for, to your point, variety of reasons in a variety of situations. You want people to see the best self possible because if you think they look at your true self, you're thinking
Right.
there's no way that we're going to connect, or it's just you think it's going to be bad, and
Yeah.
whatever bad looks like, it's just gonna it just you think that it's just going to be something that they're not going to accept you because you have so many faults. So, yes, to answer your question, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's costumes I'm wearing, and there's probably some that you're wearing as
Oh,
well. I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely. But I think costume empowers us, just like
mm,
Batman, right? To do something that we believe in. Just
okay,
like this podcast. We're doing this podcast. And yes, we have a costume, but we're not completely different from how you
right,
see us, how right? Because after 30, 45 minutes of us talking, the costumes tend to come off.
right,
If but from my review of the episodes, I don't think there is that heavy costume. I think it's a light costume to help us just talk to each other and do something new that
right,
we haven't really done before, right? And that is in itself is scary, right?
sure,
We're learning so much as we're going through this in the hopes that, hey, maybe I'm wearing this costume, I'm creating this, maybe someone will watch and connect to it. Maybe it will benefit one person. Maybe it'll benefit two people. Again, that is our intent, that is our goal.
right. I mean, you figure the amount of years you work.
Mhm.
So I'm going to round down and say I've worked 35, well, 30, between 30 and 35 years. And through those 30 and 35 years, you have different jobs. You grow up, you have different careers. And so for each time you grow, you have another costume. For each job you have a different costume. And then when you go from job to family to other personal issues that you need to address, it's different costume for every single situation. And on occasion, you really wonder if you put on the wrong costume or if you forgot your one costume at work for the one at family or vice versa. So over the years, the costumes change and sometimes it can be daunting. It can be
Yeah.
challenging to constantly have these costumes, and honestly, there's maybe some times where you go and refer to old costumes
Yes.
because it worked way back when, so you're thinking, "Well, if it worked back then, even though it was a different time, I was a different
Mhm.
person, it was a different job, maybe it will work now." And so you try on that costume and you recognize that it doesn't work anymore, you
Doesn't
know?
fit.
The costume doesn't fit. Yeah, the costume does not
Yeah.
fit. So you have to wear a new costume. So that in
Yep.
itself is now you're trying on new costumes and more
Absolutely.
costumes.
Absolutely. I love that example because it may be a job, it may be a function, it may be a role, or it
Mm,
may just be the season. It could be so many things that make us put our costumes on. At the same time, when do you recognize that it's okay to put your costumes down? What are some I'm asking it What are some ways you're like, you know what? I'm changing, let's say, environment, right? How do you recognize that you have shed your work costume for your family costume? What does that look like?
I think it's recognizing what is needed from you. So for example, if I'll talk about this in probably more podcasts about what careers inspired me and kind of fueled me and what careers were necessary at the time, but looking back was probably a little bit draining and
Hmm.
maybe things I learned from that helping me now. There may have been some careers where I was just tired, and so the costume of trying to block that off, or the costume that was blocking me from a certain job, I didn't want to take that same costume home being a dad. So I had to change costumes. Like, okay, I don't want to be this person because this person at work has to deal with things we don't want to talk to the family about.
Hmm.
Let's put this costume down at work. Let's get a new costume and just kind of, okay, this is the dad costume, right? This
Yeah.
is the one that gets to have fun with the kids and to
Yeah.
be with the family and be present with the family, and not be the same person
Hmm.
at work that had to experience certain situations.
Right. No, absolutely. We need to protect our safe space and the people we are keeping safe from the stress, from whatever it is from the outside world towards that safe environment. And that includes changing costumes. But that also involves recognizing that we have a costume on, recognizing that the environment is changing, so the costume also needs to change. That's also recognizing that certain costume is appropriate, certain costume isn't appropriate for the people we're going to be around. There's so many levels of thought, intent behind it because it doesn't just happen automatically.
Right.
And it also isn't something where it's 5 o'clock. Well, I feel refreshed. I don't, right? It's not instantaneous. It is a process of unwinding. So at the end of the day, you're unwinding and putting that costume away and then putting on a different costume.
Right.
Sometimes when people work from home, it can blur those lines. Where is the work costume? Where is the home costume? I think this is why it's so important to have some type of a ritual because again, going back to Batman, bat signal comes on, then Batman recognizes it's time to put on my costume, does his work, comes back, goes into the Batcave, unwinds, and then back to the mansion as Bruce Wayne.
Right. That's good. You did good on that. That was good.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I and I think that you kind of touched on it, and it's also trying to determine what your true self is. And then when you can figure
Mhm.
that out, then I would think, which costume to put on. And the problem is when you don't know what your true self is, then you don't know which costume you need for certain situations because you don't know what you're protecting yourself from,
Right.
and I think that it's if you can look back on certain jobs and who you were, you could probably get a sense of understanding that that's happened before, that you
Yeah.
were, younger and maybe didn't know certain things in the world and you didn't know what was going on. So if you didn't know that, you didn't know your true self. If you didn't know your true self, you don't know which costume to put on. You're just kind of going with like a knee jerk reaction costume,
Mhm.
you know, those plastic ones you get from like the store for like $5 kind of thing. That's the kind of costume you put on. It's
Oh
a
my
costume. It's
gosh.
probably like the best one, but it'll do the job for now kind of
Yeah.
costume.
Yeah. I really appreciate how you said, like, your true self really guides in this
Mhm.
situation, in any situation. You're not completely changing yourself by putting on a costume. You are just shifting the priorities that you have, the values that you have, the
Right.
way you speak. And again, we're not talking about code switching because that's an
Right.
entirely different podcast. We're talking about the intention and being secure to say, hey, I'm going to put on this costume right now because that's what's needed. Again, we can go back to Batman. Batman doesn't just have the bat suit. Batman has a suit to go to space, to go
Right.
underwater, to go, so
Right.
many different suits, right? As do we. So it is oftentimes our when we don't recognize our true self, we get attached to a costume that has
Right.
given us validation. And then we start trying to make sure that this costume doesn't leave us, because if it does, will people still like and validate who we are? And I think this is where it becomes to a space of feeling anxious, feeling depressed, feeling
Right.
not like ourselves, right? The mental health aspects come around when we hold on to a costume that no longer serves us,
Right.
right? To a costume that doesn't fit anymore because we've grown, the environment has changed, and so many other factors,
And you just
right?
wonder,
Yeah.
what if they didn't wear a costume, right?
Mhm.
What is the worst case scenario for not wearing a costume? And I think that is where people, including myself, get hung up on
Mhm.
is the worst case scenario will more than likely never be the worst case scenario. Lack of acceptance, is that the worst case
Right.
scenario? Well, then if they didn't accept you for who you are, then maybe it wasn't meant to be that they were connected. Or
Yeah.
maybe make a fool of yourself. Okay, well, maybe I made a fool of myself, but at least it was my true self that was showing through or
Right.
shining through. And again, if that's not what you needed, and if my true self isn't accepted here, then maybe this isn't the place to be.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
Like, I liked how you reshape that question, because oftentimes when people are authentic everywhere, their true self everywhere without the costume, um, it can be empowering. A lot of people that are motivating becomes like, oh my gosh, I can trust you because I don't think there's a second agenda,
right,
right? I think you are exactly who you say you are. And when they are, how do I say this? When they are faced with negativity, there's a self protection, a level of confidence where, you know what? This wasn't meant for me. This is not my environment, right? This is not where I belong. And that's okay. We do not have to belong in every place we are in,
I mean,
right?
you'll find a place. I mean, if you found a place
Absolutely.
for costume, then you can find a place without a costume.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. And this comes to like, how do you let other people know you're wearing a costume? What do you do? Right. For
and the
me,
relationships aren't there. Well,
yeah,
the relationships are going to be different between the ones that you wearing the costume with and the ones you aren't,
yeah,
because the people who are so used to seeing you in one light will be probably thrown off when the other situation occurs,
absolutely.
right? And that in itself would be that's why so many different relationships. I know for a fact that I've worked with many people in my lifetime, and I
Hmm.
can tell you I can count on the amount of people who I'm still talking to on one hand. It's because I know what costumes I put on throughout the years, and that's what they're probably used to.
Hmm.
And that's who, that's who I showed up as that
Right.
costume. And now that could be a lot of other variables as well, why I'm not still in contact with many people.
Right.
I'll blame
It's
the costume
complex.
episode. Yeah.
It absolutely is complex, right? Even when I was mentioning to a couple of my friends, like, "Hey, I'm starting a podcast," and so forth. There's initial excitement, and then why you? I'm like, okay, it's true. Why me? It's like I don't know. I
Right.
feel like this is just a moment for me to try something new, try to see how I can help and support other people. And again, that is so meaningful to me that you can have real conversations and you can say, hey, I have this sim, this costume sim, this costume sim, this costume sim, and so on, right? When I am inviting people, I'm like, hey, I will, in sessions, I will say, all right, I'm putting my counselor hat on right now, all right? Or I'm
Right.
putting my coaching hat, I'm putting my friend hat, right? I'm putting my stranger hat on. So in my sessions, people, my clients can say like, okay, so if Sim is the counselor part right now, what are some of the things that he's seeing versus if he's a friend, what are some of the things that he's seeing? This helps in recognizing that five different people will see the same situation, same thing in five different ways, if not more,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll talk about I know that there's an episode down the road about hats and
Yeah,
different hats and whatnot. We don't
exactly.
want to spoil anything right now. Uh, don't want to give anything away. Um,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
But this kind of topic definitely builds on itself, and it could really go further and lengthier in time.
Oh,
For
absolutely,
sure.
absolutely. No, I am also checking the time, Ian, and one of the things that I wanna make sure that we give something is recognize your true self as you're putting on these costumes, because then you can say, "It's not the right time for this costume, it's the right time for a different one," or, "Let me go ahead and practice being fully authentic." Then it starts unlocking so many things.
Yeah. I think the one takeaway I have from today is it is okay to have a costume.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for joining. All right. Today we just talked about the costumes we wear and what does it mean.
Thank you for watching this, and we look forward to you joining us on the next episode as well.
Thank you so much for joining us and being part of the conversation. We hope this episode has given you some insight on your journey to a more balanced and fulfilling career. Please find Beyond the 9 to 5, a balanced career on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode. Thank you for joining us.